This is an excerpt from the fourth entry of my blog/extended essay, 19 Arabs with Boxcutters, which can be found at 19arabs.blogspot.com. The 9/11 official story, Bogus on purpose. Why are there so many flaws, anomalies, and impossibilities in the 9/11 OS official story? If your answer to this question is, well, obviously because it just doesn't hold together since it isn't true, then you are both understanding and missing the point at the same time. For the perplexing aspect of this issue is in fact inherent in the very sloppiness with which it was performed. Simply put, given the massive resources at their disposal, why couldn't the 9/11 plotters and deceivers make it seem as if their story were airtight? Why, instead, are there so many ultra-conspicuous loose ends? Why, in fact, is the 9/11 OS not merely difficult to swallow, but finally impossible to believe when one begins to scrutinize it with anything resembling logic, reason, and discernment? One possibility to consider is sheer incompetence. It is probable that many of the ruling class aren't the sorts of Bond villain-esque evil masterminds that we take them to be. They could, in fact, be utter bumblers in many cases. Being sociopathically wicked and willing to murder thousands of innocent people in order to further a warmongering agenda doesn't necessarily make you intellectually nimble, psychologically adept, or effective at emotional manipulation. On the other hand, one imagines that those with infinite resources would also be able to hire highly skilled public relations hacks, as well as buying off much of the judicial system, not to mention nearly the entirety of the prominent media, in order to promote their diabolical lies as if they were God's honest truth. And such an eventuality has certainly come to pass, as one can see simply by observing the sorts of notions that are permitted to be expressed on media channels, as opposed to the sorts of ideas that are regarded as beyond the pale and immediately censored. But, however slick or seductive such efforts may be, there is still the problem of the untenability of the account they are doing their damnedest to sell to their audience as quote-unquote truth. Many will be intimidated from seeing reason because the most powerful people are promoting an official story that takes leave from common sense in nearly every way, and they don't want to suffer the loss of social credit which invariably accompanies opposing the powerful. Others, caught up with other things in their personal lives, will simply take the duplicitous media's deceitful account of things at face value. Not because they are dumb or credulous, but simply because they are generally otherwise preoccupied, and thus not inclined to examine such matters too closely. And so we are left with our initial question still unanswered. Regardless of the compliant media and paid-off hacks working overtime to divert the population from considering relevant lines of inquiry, such as those briefly enumerated above, we still have the vexing conundrum, never mind how many resources they have poured into the cover-up of the operation. Why was the operation itself so sloppily executed in the first place?